Stephen the first martyr, standing for truth. In the early days of the Christian church, there were many believers spreading the message of Jesus. Among them was a man named Stephen, known for his faith, wisdom, and miracles. He was chosen to serve as one of the 7 deacons, men who helped take care of the church's needs. But Stephen's courage to speak the truth would lead him to a difficult and dangerous path. This is the story of Stephen the first martyr, the first person to die for his faith in Jesus. Raised hand. Stephen's role in the church. The early church was growing, and the apostles were preaching the message of Jesus. But as the number of believers grew, the apostles couldn't manage everything alone. So, the apostles chose 7 men, including Stephen, to help with practical tasks like distributing food to the widows. Stephen was a man full of faith and the Holy Spirit, and God worked powerful miracles through him. Stephen was not just helping the poor, he also preached about Jesus wherever he went. He performed many signs and wonders that amazed the people. However, some of the religious leaders, like the synagogue of freedmen, didn't like what Stephen was saying. They argued with him, but Stephen's wisdom and the power of the Holy Spirit helped him defend his faith. Unable to argue with Stephen, the leaders began to spread false accusations about him. They claimed that Stephen had spoken against Moses and God. The religious leaders brought Stephen before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council, accusing him of blasphemy. Stephen was asked to explain himself. He didn't defend himself in fear. Instead, he boldly told the council about the history of God's people. He spoke of Abraham, Joseph, Moses, and the prophets, showing how the Jewish leaders had often rejected God's messengers. Finally, Stephen said, "You are just like your ancestors who rejected God's truth. You betrayed and murdered Jesus, the righteous one." These words angered the council. They didn't want to hear the truth. As the council became furious, Stephen looked up to heaven and saw Jesus standing at the right hand of God. He said, "I see heaven open and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God." This made the leaders even angrier. They covered their ears and shouted, not wanting to hear anymore. The religious leaders dragged Stephen out of the city to stone him. As they threw stones at him, Stephen knelt down and prayed, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." With that, he died. Stephen became the first martyr, the first person to give his life for his faith in Jesus. His courage and love for others, even in the face of death, left a powerful example for all Christians. Lightbulb moral lessons from Stephen's story. Standing for truth can be difficult, but God gives us the strength to be bold. Forgiveness is a powerful example of God's love, even in the face of hate. Sometimes, doing what is right means standing alone, but God is always with us. Stephen's faith and courage inspire us to stand for truth and justice in our own lives. Blue Book closing message. Stephen's story reminds us that following Jesus may not always be easy, but it is always worth it. When we face trials, we can remember Stephen's example of faith, forgiveness, and courage. Let's live boldly for Christ, just like Stephen did, knowing that even in the hardest times, God is with us. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God goes with you, he will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6.